When I was a little kid, I made a decision to be great. I wanted to stand out. I wanted to be the best. Unfortunately for me, I made this decision on the last day of swim lessons. The reason I say unfortunately is because on the last day is when the parents would show up to watch. And it would all conclude with the grand finale. That is when we dived off the diving board. Now at my pool, we had options. You could go off the low dive or you could go off of the high dive. All right, let's be honest. Jumping off a low dive, that's good. Now jumping off the high dive, that's amazing. And most of the kids in my class were content with just being good. It wasn't until the kid in front of me climbed the high dive ladder that I was introduced to greatness. I remember watching the kid in front of me walk to the end of the diving board, and with the grace of a rock, he jumped and he did a toothpick into the water. The gasp of the crowd confirmed in my mind that this was greatness. So what did I do? I began to climb the high dive ladder. When I reached the top of the high dive board, I remember looking down thinking, oh wow, this is higher than I thought. And as I got closer to the end of the board, I remember thinking, okay, this isn't the smartest thing I've done. But then I had a great idea. What would happen if I were to dive off of this high dive? I remember taking a deep breath, looking down, taking aim, and then diving off the board and belly flop. Actually, my dive was good, but there was a problem. You see, if you're gonna jump off a high dive, there are certain things you need to make sure are secure. And one of those things is your shorts. Now remember, this is the 80s. So I didn't have the luxury of having boxer shorts or whitey-tighties underneath my swimsuit. To sum it up, I looked like a fool with my pants on the bottom of the pool. And just for the record, the water was freezing that day. Or that was my excuse. This was my first attempt at greatness, and as you can tell, it sort of flopped. But it leads me to a big question. If you could be good, or if you could be great, which would you choose? I believe we all want to be great in almost every area of our lives. We want to be great athletes, great musicians, great singers, great actors, great thinkers, great friends, great students. We all want to be great, or at least great at something. Let me put it to you this way. None of you woke up today to a Clay Aiken playlist thinking, I want to be mediocre. Let me see if I can put this into context for you. All right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to picture your car. Now, I understand all of you can't drive, and so here's what I will let you do. Pick out a car that your mom or your dad drive and say that that is your car. Because we're going to compare two different cars. We're going to compare your car, which I'm sure is a great car, to my car, this Ferrari. One of these cars has some power. One of these cars is full of power. One of these cars, when it drives by, nobody's really going to notice. It's just going to sort of blend in. It just looks like everybody else's car. Whereas one of these cars, when it drives by, everybody's going to be like, did you see that? Because this car is great. But here's what you need to know about a great car or a great life. It will cost you more to get it. So here's my question for you. If you could be one of those cars, either your car, your parents' car, or this car, which would you choose? Now, I'm going to bet that most of you are going to choose this car here. And the reason that is because you want to be great. And let me tell you why you want to be great and how I know you want to be great. That's how God created you to be. And I know that that sounds hard to believe, but it's found in the Bible in Genesis when God is creating everything. Listen to God's reaction to his creation. He creates the heavens and the earth. He says, it is good. He creates night and day. He says, it's good. Earth and sky, it is good. And I'm thinking, God's standards must be a lot higher than mine, because I created a coffee table in high school and I thought, man, this is great. And here God has created the entire universe and he's like, it's good. Then on the sixth day, God creates man and he creates woman, and his response is different. Listen to what he says. Then God looked over all he had made and he saw that it was very good. God creates man and woman, and it's not good. It's very good. It's great. And why is it? Well, it's because God created us to be great. Okay, so God created us to be great. That sounds good. That sounds great even. But here's the problem. I don't feel great. And if I were to look around at what people say is great, I don't add up to that standard. Why is that? Maybe the reason we don't feel great is because we don't understand what it means to be great. I mean, what is greatness? Is greatness about popularity? Is it about having possessions? Is it about having wealth or power? Those things are all good, but is that what greatness really is? I want you to listen to how Jesus describes greatness to his closest friends and followers. Do you want to stand out? Then step down. Be a servant. If you puff yourself up, you'll get the wind knocked out of you. But if you're content to simply be yourself, your life will count for plenty. Another translation puts it this way: the greatest among you must be a servant, but those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. The first will become last, the greatest will become the servant, to step up, step down. What's Jesus describing here? Because that's not greatness in our culture. But then again, that may be the point. Jesus has given us a pathway to greatness in God's eyes. And yeah, it may not look like what we think greatness should look like. It may not lead to our names being in the bright lights, but maybe it's leading us a step closer to who Christ wants us to become, which is more like him. So what is your next step in your relationship with Christ? What's your next step on this pathway to greatness? Right now, there are some of you, and you're spectators. You're just checking out this whole God thing. You're watching the messages, you're watching people sing, you're watching people talk in the groups, and the next step for you is for you to participate, to get involved, to take the plunge, to dive in. Now, most of you are participants. You show up each week and you participate. You sing, you listen to the message, you talk in groups, but when you leave, you sort of leave God at the door. It's sort of like jumping off the low dive. Now, it's a necessary step and it's good, but if you stay there a long time, you're eventually just going to get bored and you're going to quit. And you miss the opportunity to be great. Our goal, our desire, if we could sit down with you and say, hey, here's what we want for you in your life, this is it. That you would be a fully devoted follower of Christ. That you would do what very few people are doing. That you would climb the ladder of the high dive and that you would take the plunge. And we want the words of Paul's life to be the words of your life when he said, Christ is my life. You see, we want you to discover who God is and to grow in that relationship with him, whether through prayer, devotions, fasting, whatever that looks like for you. We also want you to discover who God has made you to be. Not what this world wants you to be, but what has God created you to be, and to live up to that standard. We want you to be in community. We want you to be surrounded by people who are going the same direction that you are going in, to support you, to help you, to make you better. And finally, we want you to put others first. We want you to serve. We want you to give. We want you to share. We want you to put value in other people. So the question is, will you be good or will you be great?